And I had the same thought. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Kermit the Frog with a head cold." Why is he talking? Why am I talking like that?
Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall. I think for the first time in our life, that was a take two. We won't have people listen to the original because it was just that warbled. But here we are. And we just got back from doing some work together.
Yes, we were doing a workshop for 100 plus managers, leaders, and coaches.
Yep.
It was actually fantastic. And so I said something as I was talking, and you were watching the crowd.
Yes. Well, so the way this has sort of evolved is I'm in the back on this gig. I'm in the back taking a lot of notes and trying to be a stenographer and capture what's going on as we go through all these workshops. And there often I will have somebody come over and say, "Hey, can I get a copy of that slide?" Or, could you send us that article? And of course we always do. That's part of our gig when we do these workshops. But this was one that I noticed in multiple workshops. I even had one gentleman, you heard this guy, but he sort of yelled out in the middle of your presentation, "Hey, write that one down." So this is apparently a deep thought for a lot of folks. And it makes me, I guess I'll just pitch it to you and let you talk about it, Mike, but it made me think of an analogy that you and I have, I know, used before. But why don't you give us the general gist of this?
Right. So the idea is, we were talking about coaching, and the concept is you've never seen yourself walk into a room. You've never experienced your own presence. You have no idea what it's like to sit across from you and have a conversation. And I think this is most dramatically played out anytime anyone on the planet listens to a recording of themselves. And it's one of the reasons that not everybody does a podcast. They cannot stand to hear their recorded voice. And to a person, everybody on the planet, the first time this happens, turns to the person next to them and says, "Do I really sound like that?" I thought I was listening to this other person and somebody I know have a conversation, and somebody I didn't know have a conversation, because I do not recognize my own voice. And I had the same thought. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Kermit the Frog with a head cold." Why is he talking? Why am I talking like that? And I think the other thing that happens, right, that gives us a sense of this, is when we're talking with somebody and we get a reaction that we don't expect. Right?
Yeah.
Does it ever happen to you? If you're talking to somebody, you're thinking it's coming across one way, and what you get back just completely boggles your mind. Yeah,
100%. And it makes you think of like a stand-up comic where, this killed last night. Somehow it's not tonight. Like I just bombed in the room. And if you're Norm Macdonald, you just keep going, right? You just drive and drive and drive, and eventually you start getting laughs out of it. But for other folks, like it's really like, oh my gosh. I think was it Madeline Kahn in Blazing Saddles? She when she saw herself at the premiere, it so wigged her out that like she just sort of became a recluse from the industry and did not get on screen for decades, I believe, and eventually came back with the I think it was the Bill Cosby sitcom that he did after the Cosby Show, and was hysterical. I mean, could not have been funnier. The late great Madeline Kahn. But that idea that you don't know how you are going to react to it. Guess what? Imagine all the people around you. How are they going to react to it? That's a good thing to think about.
Well, no, you're exactly right. And I had, an instance I can remember where, we got done talking, and then a little later in the follow-up conversation, the person looked at me and they go, "You were so intimidating."
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, I look like a stick figure. I talk like Kermit the Frog with a head cold. I'm really not getting the intimidation part. I am just not seeing it. And they were like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, that was very
Right.
intimidating the way you talked to me." Like, huh? I had no idea I could do that. I could,
I didn't know I could be intimidating.
yeah, I'm gonna see if I can manifest this on purpose. But yeah,
Right.
I had no idea. And so yeah, it came to me, right, that we will never know. This is in the Johari window, right? This would be our blind spot.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
no idea what I sound like, what I look like, what my presence is, if I'm intimidating, if I'm warm. The only thing we have are people's reactions. And
Right.
I wrote something brilliant, and I'll have to read it because I could never do it again. In talking about this, and it said, "Our perception of ourselves is distorted by the mental construct of our identity. We create a narrative of ourselves and our life, and our perception of what we look like is based upon these beliefs. We can only ever see ourselves through the lens of our own imagination."
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And when you think about it, right? I heard this a while back. Somebody said there isn't one version of you. There's the version that we just talked about that I imagine in my own construct. And then for every person you've ever met, they've created their own version of you. So if I
Mm.
talk to 1,000 people, there's 1,000 different versions of me.
Yeah.
And so the only way this works is we're completely reliant on people to give us feedback.
Yeah.
Whether intentional or just in a reactive way. That's all we
Right.
got. I
Yeah.
say something or interact with somebody, and then I'm trying to watch for the clues. And I think as carbon-based upright bipedal hominoids, we have gotten pretty good at this, right? The slightest twitch of an eyebrow, the narrowing of an eye, right? We're very perceptive to all these things, and it's all
Yep.
based upon I'm trying to figure out how I'm coming across,
Right.
at this point. And when you think about, going in for, we've talked about crucial conversations, going in for some of
Yep.
those tough coaching meetings and things like that. This is heightened to a degree where everything is critical. Every word that you choose, every question that you ask, and the manner in which you present your tone and body language, all are super critical. And it's only by people giving you the gift, and it's truly a gift, right? The feedback that you can better understand. Okay, how am I coming across?
So, two things about that. One is we're talking about how you come across. We're not talking about your worth as an individual. The fact that everybody has a different version of you, to be biblically frank about it, who cares if your self-worth ought to be in your relationship with God and how he sees you, because he's going to see you objectively if the God of the Bible is accurate. And that's sort of my claim. So we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is, practically speaking, how you come across to people so that you get things done, you're able to have influence for good in your interactions with other people. And often I think the thing that people forget about is, it's not just the, like you said, the micro, movement of the eyebrows and so on and so forth, the tone of voice, the body language. It's also the story of what got them to this place where you're having this conversation. So, that could be, before you took over in this department, there was a previous manager who was abusive, in some way. Well, guess what? That's part of the conversation, whether you like it or not. That is part of the history of the conversation that is coming to the table. You and I used to work with a lady who was really smart to notice that and say, I just want to make sure we're clear. I don't want you to have PTSD with me. I know there's PTSD from previous eras, but I don't want you to have PTSD with me. That was a smart thing to say because she knew how it could come across. But I'll give you it can be even more basic than that, just cultural differences. You often try to accuse me of being a Midwesterner, and I am a Southerner. I've tried to be clear with you about this. I get it that I was a border state during the Civil War, but I digress.
All right. And I apologize, Colonel Mark.
Thank you for that. I bet you I have. Oh my goodness. Look, I just have to show you.
Oh,
I
Lord.
put on a collared shirt,
Show and
just
tell.
for the sake of the
because it's
podcast.
podcast, right? We're gonna. Oh, look.
But there's
That's the Kentucky Colonels. Oh, nice.
the Eastern Kentucky University Colonels. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Go Big E. Anyway, but my point is, you and I were on a project in Detroit. We were having a meeting. I'm not sure if you were there that evening, but there was a young lady on the project, and she had the Michigan accent. She had the Michigan accent, and I said, "I love your accent," and she goes, "My accent? You're the one that sounds so country." And not in a million years had I thought that I sounded country
Oh, yeah.
to people. In Kentucky, I sound kind of like probably a little less country in my accent, but in Detroit,
in
that's
Kentucky,
not how it comes across.
In Kentucky, you're Thurston Howell the Third. Oh, I say, Levy, it's time for sports tea, that kind of thing. But yeah,
and the joke was really on me because that young lady was from Albania, so I didn't even have her right.
Nice, yeah. That was Now we've got triggering going on. We've got an international conflict. Geopolitical disharmony. This is What have you done? What have you done?
What have you done? Right.
Yeah, but no, and I used to use that idea of preconceived notions at the dinner table. So anytime we would have guests at the dinner table, when my dad would reach for the mashed potatoes, I would duck and wince. Just to give the impression that when you're not here, I'm getting beat up quite a bit.
That's awful. That's awful.
Dad didn't like it either. But it amused me. No, you're exactly right. So you make a good point. All right, your worth is not in question, but the way you're perceived, the way you come across, and then the more tense the situation. Like in your example, I didn't have a relationship with this person, so my observation could have been taken as, "Wow, that's interesting," or "Let's fight."
Yeah, right.
I got amygdala hijacked. They're going into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Exactly. And my goal was just to strike up a friendly banter,
right.
And right. Well, that didn't go all that well.
Yeah. And there are so many. Yeah, there are tons of opportunities for that, and every one of us need to just, as we've often said, assume positive intent. Approach all conversations assuming that folks aren't trying to get you. And that would help in all these situations. But meanwhile, what's under your control is how you manage your communication with other people and how you observe them and take that into consideration. So these are really just, very practical things that you can be doing literally throughout the entire day as you interact with other people, to be thinking about, I wonder how I'm coming across. And that, the analogy you and I have used in the past is, what's it like to be in your wake? If you're a boat, right. What's the wake behind you that you're leaving? And to just sort of mentally get empathetic about what people are experiencing, having to deal with you, for better or worse.
Well, and sometimes we have the opportunity to do that. We'll have a client and they'll invite us in on one of their coaching sessions with their team member. And then, and then we always have to tell the team member, I'm not here for you. I'm not here about you. I'm here to coach the coach and provide them some feedback on, how did you do with your questions? How did you do with the feedback? And then, how did you come across? What was your tone, body language, and how was that perceived? And so, and people are willing to pay for that. They pay us to do that because they see that as with that kind of value. They attach that kind of value to that kind of feedback. And so, I always encourage people, if you're going to do this, make sure it's a trusted source. It's somebody that
Yeah.
you trust their opinion, their feedback, and that that, and you might even prompt them to look for that. Hey, I'm going to get ready to talk to so and so. If you could just listen, and then when it's over, give me some feedback on how I did, and even
Yep.
be more specific. How did I come across? What was the tone? What was the feeling you think that I was portraying, and get that feedback. So yeah, you can seek it out from the person you're talking to. You can pay a coach to come in and give you that kind of feedback, or you can have a trusted source, and ask them for that, and even give them specifics on what to look for.
Yeah. I love that. It's really practical stuff, and it's really it's deeply philosophical at the same time. This is, this tends to be how real life works. We could spend a lot of time talking about, these big huge concepts, and then they play out in these tiny little moments.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully we've given you a little bit of both here today. So
Oh yeah,
with
yeah.
that being said,
No, good stuff. And yeah, we're always working on this. So if you
oh,
got some feedback for us, yeah, bleep it in the comments down below. We're open to feedback. We've both been married for quite a while now. We can take feedback. We know we have potential, and we're fixer uppers, and it can only get better.
that's
So
true.
yeah, if you see something, let us know. In the meantime, somebody's always, hitting us right between the eyes with some truths. Let's turn it over to
So
our
true.
announcer, Mr. John Wolf.
And that's a wrap. The musings of Mark and Mike. No rights reserved, etc. Feel free to share and discuss what you heard today. Even claim the ideas as your own. Who'd want to do that? See you next time on It Doesn't Take a Genius. Thanks.
That's good enough.